the heroes of lands in the sun. We vow to join hands and to focus on building one Caribbean. Raise your voices high and sing of your Caribbean pride. Sing it loud and strong, feel our hearts beat as one. Celebrating song as we rise to heights where we belong. Sound the victory drum for Caracom. Though great and diverse be our ethnicities, the bonds that unite us are stronger than these. We dine, we pray, we love.
Welcome, brothers. Welcome, sisters. Welcome to our program On Target. And as usual, as soon as we start this program, you can pick up your telephone and give us a call. The number to call is 4420175. We never have a subject matter. We speak about anything: politics, religion, socio-economic issues, or any topical issue of the day, and you too can introduce your own topic. You know, it's a good thing. Sometimes we are not as appreciative of these advances and the success we made in Grenada. A couple years ago, we had only one radio station. A couple decades ago, Radio Grenada. The revolution used to call it Radio Lionel. When the revolution took place, although some of the principles for justifying the revolution was freedom of the press, they had one radio station. They call it Radio Free Grenada. But Governor Stillman Thomas, they jailed him. And they jailed Leslie Pierre. And a number of people felt, no, we have to stick to the principles. They end up in jail. So now we have a lot of radio stations, about 30. Somebody must call me and tell me who liberalized the system. I have a poor memory, you know. We need to know that. Our children need to know who are the politicians that come in and decide, let us liberalize the system. Today, Grenada have about 30 radio stations. Some of them may not be very active, and I'm certain a number of people have license to open radio stations. That is good. You still have people in Grenada saying they don't have freedom. I don't know what they want to do. And then we have a very tolerant politicians. Our politicians are very tolerant. Some of the criticisms I hear about our politicians, I have to admire them. So we have made a lot of advances, you know. Sometimes it's unfortunate. Francis Alexis and Ruggles Ferguson, you know, I look at their faces when we was fighting to make some changes to get Grenada to ascend to the CCG. You know, so the CCJ could be your final court of appeal for civil and criminal matters. Only Barbados, Belize, and Guyana have taken the decision to ascend to the CCJ. We in Grenada had the opportunity, but we were not convinced that that is the right thing to do. Our people believe in the Privy Council. Francis Alexis and Ruggles practically cry, give those lawyers. They never support them. They say they don't have confidence in our own people. Maybe in about 100 years again, we may come to the conclusion and agree. Barbados since then have moved on, and they break complete ties with the Queen, with Britain as the head of the Barbados. We and St. Vincent far away. Maybe, you know, we have to respect. That is what the democratic process is all about. We have to respect the decision of the majority of people. As unfortunate as it is, we vote 8 times no. You say we don't trust our own people. We prefer the Privy Council. Some people are given an opportunity to have a fixed date for election. Now everybody have election panic or election fever. You could have get away with that and have a fixed date for election. They say no. And we must respect that. The Prime Minister determines the date. Some people believe that Karikou name should be on the passport. Karikou say no. We don't want to name on the passport. Grenada is enough. So when you say Grenada, you include Karikou and Petimatnik. You don't have to say Karikou and Petimatnik. But sometimes it's politically romantic for the politicians to say Karikou and Petimatnik. But when you say Grenada, Karikou and Petimatnik is included. We have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome. Punch.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yes, my brother.
The matter with us in Grenada, one of the problems, it is very difficult to amend your constitution. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I hear you loud and clear. Go right ahead.
It's very difficult to amend our constitution because the Lords of London did down a constitution to us which saddled us for the future. Unlike Barbados, they gave Barbados a constitution that could easily be amended. In our case, they gave us a constitution that you have to go back to the people and vote in a referendum. Barbados didn't have to do that, So the stringent measures of the constitution in Grenada, because they gave us independence, and who gave them the right? They claimed Grenada, they used Grenada, and in the end, when they finished with us, they gave us Grenada and they gave you a constitution that you have very little authority in it, the elected government, to make changes. And so it made it very difficult for any government to make amendments to the Constitution of Grenada. The other thing that is terrible about the Constitution, the political party is the one that creates the government. Yet for the Constitution is silent about political parties. It means that this Constitution really and truly is no good. And all of us as politicians have gone through it and would not make the changes. But we need to take a very bold decision, get rid of the Constitution and put in place a new Constitution of the people and let the people vote for it,
Well,
Because we are saddled with a Constitution that is difficult to amend it. And then, like I said before, you cannot, it's so silent about political parties. But political parties is the machinery and institution that creates the government.
Yeah, the Constitution doesn't recognize the political parties. You're gonna bit low, or you have the radio in the background? Okay. Yes. So, well, that's a fact. 2/3 to amend or to change anything in the Constitution, you have to have 2/3 of the people in the law house, 2/3 of the parliamentarians, and you have to have 2/3 of the electorate that are voting. So it is not easy, particularly in a highly polarized climate. The only time attempt was made to go to the polls was when the ruling party felt that they had enough members in the House to get the 2/3. And it was rejected. You see, the trade union in our country is not interested in amending the Constitution. The lawyers in our country is not interested in amending the Constitution. And the University of the West Indies is not interested in amending the constitutions in the Caribbean. All of them seems to prefer the rule by the monarchy. Why I say that? Because I know the trade union will be upset. The trade union in Grenada have significant power because of the amount of members that they have. But they have never played a significant role in amending the Constitution. Never. The Bar Association, and that is where you believe you have your legal minds and your legal brains and people who have more command in the Constitution, they stayed quiet. Irrespective of Francis Alexis and Ruggles Ferguson, begging and urging, and few other lawyers, the majority of lawyers felt they didn't trust their own. So it's difficult for the politicians. It's very difficult for the politicians. And the University of the West Indies has not helped us. The University of the West Indies contributed immensely to making us recognized internationally and in the academic sphere. But they have not helped enough people developing. So while you have recognition in the world, but your people on the ground has not been, they don't have the level of development that they should have because they are abandoned by the intelligentsia. If that continues, it might take about 100 years again before any government have the guts to amend the Constitution. We were very fortunate that we have a very stable political climate because you have a government that seems to have the formula to unite. Knowing Grenada history, and if you're going to take what Judge Brizan say, island of conflict, it may be decades again before we could have a government that command that level of respect in our society. So we really miss an opportunity. We really miss an opportunity. It's unfortunate, but we must respect the democratic process. When the revolution took place, Maurice Bishop suspended the Constitution, but he kept the Queen. When he was asked that by some of his friends in the Caribbean, he said Grenadians like the Queen. No wonder why these individuals who was greater students of Marxist-Leninism than Bishop got fed up with him, and say that Bishop is a petit bourgeois and a womanizer, and he trying to have a culture like Castro, one-manism. So they got rid of him. They were kind of young and exuberant and immature too. We have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome.
Good morning.
Yes, my brother, welcome.
No, I appreciate how you start the program this morning in relation to the media services. Now, I want the nation to remember, and who in the listening audience to remember, radio lobby, and the problem they had under the NDC administration, where they had the SSU looking for them all over the place. They sometimes used to operate outside on a boat in Grenville Harbor. I want them to remember this. Another thing I have to say in relation to what you're speaking about is in terms of the referendum and the constitutional change. Now, imagine the churches, the lawyers, the nurses, the doctors, the teachers, those in the intelligence, or how you want to call them. They were the one who had also put forward this thing. But although I give Francis Alexis some praises, but sometimes the messenger, most of the time, if you're not able to deliver, this was a problem, because when we had to vote for the CCJ, thought that Grenadian people could have understood the whole thing, that they just architect of the Chief Justice for we to come out of British colonialism. Instead of that, we go on another form, a higher stage of colonialism they call neo-colonialism. Then another thought I had within is the political arena. Anything the right honorable Dr. Keith Mitchell tried to do, he never, we have a 4% of people in this country always go against it. And Comrade, I like how you're going, and it's the first time for the year that I call, but I'll continue calling. Thank you very much.
Yes, my brother. There are some issues in this country we mustn't walk away from because it tends to have a relationship with how we function. Now, we had people go and vote 8 times. They don't want to amend the Constitution. And yet, you hear political activists now and political guru talking about amending the Constitution. Some individuals don't even have enough guts to get up and speak. We have a call on the line. Caller, welcome.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr.
Yes,
Pierre.
my brother.
I think one of the problem with when the government brought the referendum, there was a part in the referendum that talked about same-sex, and a lot of people was a bit, confused about the same-sex. A lot of people refrained from voting for the Constitution. They just stick on the same-sex issue and forget the whole other things that happened. Thank you.
Yes, my brother. And these things are important. I always say, sojourn to go to heaven, we must also deal with the reality that we live in on earth. Christ went to the mountain, but Christ come down from the mountain. Peter and John and them wanted to stay on the mountain, but they have to come back in the valley to help us. Now, religious people sit down in the church, pastors and men of the cloth, and they're creating a kind of panic, a phobia, asking God to come. The Bible tells you, do not excite yourself about the ending of the world. They tell you the harvest is great, but the laborers are few. Instead of the pastors and men of the cloth helping this country to grow, they sit on creating panic in the church, calling on God to come. Some of the Catholics, particularly those Potolegli, even though the church empty, they're glad. Because they say in the last days, people go leave the church. So when they don't see members in the church, don't believe they're sorry, They say when God comes, we alone in go in there. When you have this kind of attitude, you're not able to help the younger people to reason and think and discuss issue. The evangelicals make a whole set of issue about man marrying man. Francis Alexis again, he tried best. Well, he better. If you amend the Constitution, it's going to be more difficult. He tried, but he wasn't able to succeed. They make a whole issue on that, and they get silence again. Well, if there was concern about sexual pluralism or liberalism, let's put it that way, some men want to marry 2 men. Conventionally, a man, marriage is about a man and a woman, a male and a female. You have group of people married in the United States, 3 women and 2 men. Who you hold, you take. Who you take, you hold is a group, When you have children, it's a group that is the children's father. So you have some people in Grenada that constantly imitate what is going on in the United States. So we have to be careful. They say, examine the hand. We have to know what group of people that we are supporting to go in politics. Because they are the ones that are going to make policy decisions and shape how things are in the future. Individuals, I have this friend, I say, boy, you with this girl about 20 years, she have 3 children for you, why you don't live in a house with the girl? I'm married with her. He tell me on target, if he walk in, don't fix it. I see my partner want to go in politics. I say, well, what you go in politics for? If you're afraid to live in a house with a woman, you're afraid to get married, what you going in politics for? What example you going to set? You see, these things are important. They might sound significant, I mean, if it's an ordinary rustic like me that running my mouth, you don't meddle. But if an individual want to go and represent people, we must, you must have a history. People must look at you and see it's not only about talking, you know. If you have a good command of the English language and you have the gift of speech, like Jimmy Swaggart and Maurice Bishop and Wayward and them, you could talk. But what's about the life you live? Some people not prepared to make a day work, you know. You're 30 odd years and you have not worked a day in your life. And now you believe that because you could speak well, you have a right to represent people. Sometimes we must always examine the horn. Examine it. Because it comes back to haunt us, you know. Remember, the evangelicals jump up and they help to encourage people not to vote to amend the Constitution because of one issue. Their issue is that marriage is between a man and a woman, and if we amend the Constitution, it might be easier to have man married in man and woman married in woman. And the Constitution, the effort to amend the Constitution failed, and they stopped there. But you see, in Grenada, we have some enemies of progress. They object to everything that is positive. They never have answers. And I always encourage people to observe a little. Look in the communities and see those who criticize the most. Generally, they are the ones who do nothing. Generally, they are the ones who are unproductive. Some people might be working, they're trying. They get involved in something, they fail, but they're always trying. You have others, they observe those who is working and they criticize him. That's why I always encourage people, particularly in Grenada development and politics. When you hear people criticizing projects or programs or ideas, ask them, what is the alternative? Ask them, what is the alternative? And normally ask people, you know, some of us, we are more politicians than those ministers of government, you know, no matter what you hear people say. Some of us, including me, we're more politicians. A culture man, we're more politicians than the ministers of government. But we never have suggestions. All we're able to do is to criticize hard-working, dedicated, committed people. That's what we do. But we don't come up with solutions. How are we going to solve the problem? We have a call on the line. Call a punch.
Yes, Mr. Pierre. I have been longing to call this program to give or say, talk about this matter. So, you know, some parents, they make their children truants and not want to go to school. And I live in an area where this is going on. On Monday morning, I was privy to hear a father telling his children, nobody moved from here this morning, nobody going nowhere. So you have two children attending primary school, and then you have a 13 or 14 year attending a certain secondary school within the parish. And for that day, Monday and Tuesday yesterday, the children have not gone to school. Nobody seemed to care about the children. When the father said no, he said no. The mother can't even open her mouth. And the children are not being sent to school. And that happened for the week before. The children were at home. And you have a 13-year or 14-year attending a secondary school. I want to know, where are the truancy officers who pass around these places, go to the schools, and find out about the children, how regular they attend school, who is missing school on a regular basis.
Which community you calling from?
Right now I'm on the road in my
but which community?
Mr. Pierre,
a little bit of privacy.
Okay, no
I could
problem.
talk to you
No problem.
on another time
go
of
right
the
ahead.
radio.
Yeah. Yes.
And so I will do that.
Okay.
But this is something that goes on regularly.
Yeah.
And the ministry must send people in the schools and take a daily or weekly recording of children who attend school and who is missing school on a regular basis.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, I could talk to you.
Yes.
But up
Okay.
here.
I understand. Thank you.
If you want me to talk to you now, I could talk to you up there.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yeah. You know, our people is not hungry for education. That is one of the challenges we have in Grenada. You know, we're not hungry for education. Truancy officers starting in the 70s, when Eric Gary start building schools like wildfire, but people not going to school. So he started with truancy officers. The excuse then was we don't have clothes, we don't have food, etc., etc. The Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Social Affairs, personnel in this ministry, told me about 7 years ago, there is no reason, no justification why any child could say they don't have the basic requirement to go to school. And I have always been saying that on the radio. They say if you find one, just tell us, we go in and find them. So normally when these calls come and you don't have the information, there is very little you could do. But if I have my way, I would remove truancy officer. One of the objectives, I think, of truancy officer is to make certain children go to school. I getting rid of them. I might send back truancy officer to teach in school. The principals of the schools, every week or every month, should send on the list of names of children that did not attend school without excuse. Sometimes a child is sick. Sometimes the issue at home, the child can't come to school. Particularly now, if you have the cold or you're showing COVID-19 signs, you should not come to school, but you should indicate. And the principal should send out the name of the parents, and that should go in front of the magistrate. And not even wasting time. This information should go straight in front of the magistrate, and the magistrate should determine whether the parents should be locked up or whether social welfare should have to intervene. Education is the answer. And that is the challenge we have in Grenada. When 70% of the children leave school without meeting the minimum requirements, they don't have the skills, they don't have the talents, they have poor attitude, is a nightmare in the country. And who you think trying to solve this problem? Government. Government come up with e-money. The best program that have been instituted in Grenada in the last 100 years to try to address the challenges of children leaving school without the minimum requirements or the right attitude or skills to get a job. And here the blows this program get. From the trade union, from the opposition, from farmers, from private sectors. 3,000 people benefit from a program that gives them hope, that gives them an opportunity to get experience on the job, that gives them, most important, money, that make them preserve their dignity, that help them learn a skill, that give them opportunities to go to university, whether it is St. George's University, the University of the West Indies, Trinidad, that give them opportunity to go as far as China, where people encourage them to go back and do exam, and you still have Grenadians criticizing it. I call them the enemies of progress. And we need more voices in this country to speak out on that. This is why children could function in a village and not going to school. And nobody cares. Sometimes even the teachers in the school will prefer the children don't come. They say that give in trouble. That give in trouble. And the particular group that fall victims to that is the boys. What you expect in a society when 70% of the children and I always challenge them, I always challenge them because I do my research from a very unprofessional manner because I'm not a scientist. So the method I do my research, I know they will dismiss it, but I always tell them, tell the public what percentage of the children exiting secondary school that meet the minimum requirement. If you think things bad in Grenada, it worse in the other Caribbean countries, Every time you say that, sometimes every teacher gets vexed. But in Jamaica, it worse, It worse in other countries. We have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome.
Good afternoon, Brother Pierre.
Welcome.
Yes, what I want to tell you, my history is
You have to put the phone closer to your mouth or we'll hardly hear.
My history, you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you loud and clear.
Right. My history is Gary Days first. See that Uncle Gary that give us our school in Pedmota. I grew up, I school in Pedmota. Actually, you know where is Pedmota? I was school in St. David.
Yes, I know that area. Good.
Right there I go to school. And that was school. What do you think we was so doing in the school at those days? And I find they must bring back that.
What you were doing in school during that time?
So during those time, I was in the 4-H.
Oh, they had the 4-H group.
4-H club.
The 4-H still in school.
That's right.
I don't think it is as dynamic as it ought to be, but they still have it.
Yeah,
But since the...
dynamic as before.
Yeah.
Never.
Okay. All that helps, children.
Help, yes. 4-H now.
4-H cultural club, scout,
The
Girl Guides.
Scout guide, Red Cross.
All that help children.
Members, and besides, if you break a bench, or your chair gone bad, you get the boys to fix it in the same space.
Yes.
What are children doing now when the government had to fix the bench, which is wrong to do, man. Let those children think as we grew up in those days. Those boys and them garden. We have a school garden.
You still have agriculture in this school too.
It have agriculture in the school, but
not as before.
No.
Well, thank you very much for that. That's important,
Yes.
It's always to hear a voice from the past that could tell us what's going on.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So, one of our brothers or sister, if the situation is dealt with at the appropriate time, there'll be no need for the Imani program. I like that idea. But tell us how to deal with the situation at the appropriate time. This is the important thing. We don't know how. You have a situation where 70% of the children exiting secondary school do not have the minimum requirement. You have to find answers now, today. What you do with these children now, today. And then you come up with suggestions to prevent or seriously reduce the number of children that live in school without the minimum requirement. I believe in 5 years, 5 to 10 years, we could get that number to about 50%. So it's good for people to make suggestions what they think should be done. I'm always on that subject and have no intention of leaving that subject matter. But also making suggestions what needs to be done. If children is not going to school, we can't bother with truancy officer. The principal of the school have a register knowing whether children come to school or not. So the principal is supposed to send the names down to the Ministry of Education every month or every 3 months, and the Ministry of Education take the matter to court, bring in a magistrate, because the principal must know who the mother and the father is. Any good principal. If the child have 5 fathers, bring down all the 5 fathers. And when I say 5 fathers, nobody have 5 fathers. But sometimes 5 name calling. Bring down all of them. If the man married, better yet. If he's a police commissioner, better yet. The more clout he has in society, quicker we solve the problem. We need to solve this problem. Because our children, too many of our kids falling through the crack. And you can give me a call. The number to call is 442-0175. There are a lot of problems we could solve. Because when we go to the politicians, a number of our young politicians, I'm very disappointed. When a young person go in politics, I want to hear what is your philosophy. I want to know what is your strategy. I want to know how are you going to deal with this, some of the social problems we have with young people. We see what's going on in Jamaica. We see what's going on in Trinidad. Of the 30 countries in the world with the highest murder rate, 9 of them come from the Caribbean. Grenada is not involved in it. So Grenadian young politicians must be thinkers. Remember, is Grenada Gary come out, Is Grenada Bishop come out? Whether you like, nobody don't hate Bishop. People like Bishop because he was an orator and he had some ideas and he addressed the issues that was pertinent in the world. But I always ask, particularly those who trying to glorify the revolution, did the ends justify the means? Now we have another politician who is well respected in the Commonwealth. Perhaps the most successful politician in the Commonwealth is Dr. Kit Mitchell. And he could take criticism. There's no question about that. So our politicians must be thinkers. We have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome.
Sorry for coming back.
No, that's all right. Once you punch and you shot. Yeah. Go ahead.
The Honorable Dr. Kit Claudius Mitchell, I could give you a full history, but not much.
No, just give me one point.
I can't go too much in that.
No.
You see, that Honorable Dr. Kit Claudius Mitchell, well, I could tell you about me in St. David. The first one to come in is Williams. And you know the place they call Close Rock?
Yeah.
Right. Close Rock. Let me tell you, it's only a bike that could have go there. And you know what?
And now you have roads there.
And now we have road.
Well, you have a lot of...
Long ago, when we had to go in the market in town, we had to go quite in the crossroad. We can't go down.
Well, one of the things that I think everybody in Grenada agrees with is that the NNP has done extensive work on infrastructure.
Yes.
Particularly roads.
For that.
Yes, so that is, yeah.
That is the truth.
So that's a good point.
Pastor David, you don't have no dead end. Let me tell you, you don't have no dead end. And you see, this minister that they know, before he depart, are telling me to give me a road from...
You want more road again?
Back.
Jesus Christ. Remember, Grenada's small,
Yes,
and we have the best network of roads in the region. So that means it's expensive to maintain these roads.
I went in Jamaica in 1998. And still, Jamaica can put it food. I don't know for now. You hear what I'm telling you? But before, when I went in Jamaica with the church, Jamaica don't have good people. I love people. I walk going down to the church. That time I was in St. Teresa, they call it Parish, St. Teresa Parish in Jamaica. Lord. My brother, if you see those houses, those people there inside the house and you see they have good, pretty curtain. What is all board
Yes,
Food,
that's
the
a fact.
cotton.
Yeah. But we have to thank you.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have to thank this
Yeah.
Honorable Diana Kit Mitchell. That is the blessed government we have in Grenada.
Okay,
right
thank you
now.
very much. Yeah. You see, what this is saying have a lot of truth in it, you know. One of my brothers tell me Jamaica is a failed state, you know. I don't agree with him at all. Jamaica excel in a lot of respect and in a lot of areas. But there are some people, if they come to Grenada from Jamaica, they would not want to go back. There are some areas in Jamaica, when you look at it, you think it's hotels they have there, like people's house. And when you turn on the next side and you look at some homes, you wondering what is there. It's real ghetto. So she's correct. When she did some comparison. But Jamaica is part in the CARICOM. Jamaica is considered as more developed. Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, Belize, and the Bahamas. They are the MDCs. And I think Guyana too. And Grenada is the lesser developed. We have a call on the line. Call a punch.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, my brother.
And the listening audience. Mr. Pierre, I just heard you make a statement a while ago about Grenada have the best road network in the Caribbean, eh? But there is a difference between network. When you say network, what do you mean? You mean like you can get around the country from...
You have to remember that we have about 133 square miles.
Right.
So Grenada have the best network of roads in the region. And if
Expound on that or explain what you mean when you say network.
you hardly have a dead-end road, every creek and corner you go in. This thing is very good for communication and development.
Right.
You have access. And in terms of the quality of the road,
Well, that's what
it is comparable, relatively good, and better than most.
No, I don't think so.
Well, you have not been to the rest of the Caribbean.
Quality is very, very poor.
No.
Name one area in Grenada where you have a good quality road.
All about.
Huh?
All about. You when last you passing? Well,
From Grenville to Tongue, Granitan.
what's about Paraclete, Lafayette, Paul's, Telescope, River Sally? You name it.
Potholes all where you go.
Heritage.
Mr. Paul, Mr. Pierre, sorry. Look up.
I think you and I have to bounce up and drive wrong the place. Eh? You and I have to bounce up and drive wrong the place.
I think what caused that, eh? You see the COVID, the 2 years, we had lockdown and stuff. This has helped to destroy the road more than...
No. Chief, I hope you're not in Ticola.
You're not in Grenada?
Huh?
You live here in Grenada?
No, the roads in Grenada are relatively good. When you compare the roads to the other Caribbean islands, and hear what I do. Hear what I do. I encourage people to go through the village. Because some of those village roads better than the main road. They're good. A lot of work has been done in the roads.
And I understand what you said now when you say network. And I'm glad you make the point. Eh?
Yeah.
But I want to address two other issues. Eh?
Go right ahead.
Pertaining to, you know that development there, the Kawana Bay Beach Reserve?
In St. George's?
Yeah, which was
Yeah.
Flamboyant Hotel. And the former ambassador to Chancellor to Florida, which was Warren Newfield. Eh?
Yeah.
You know that the development, the agency, which is True Blue Development, have taken the Grenada government to court in the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes.
Yeah.
And we don't know, the case is now in arbitration.
Mm-hmm.
It is a tribunal.
Yeah, is that you go to the international court, a tribunal,
Yeah.
and the
So
decision is binding.
Yeah. And our WRB had taken us there before.
Yeah.
And we had paid how much money we lost paying WRB? 63
Well,
million.
we didn't lose money. We buy back the company. I think the question with WRB, Grenada government disagreed with the price.
But there was a loss. For the
They
government.
disagree with the price that they had to pay WRB.
Right.
And when they went to the tribunal agreed with WRB because they say that was the agreement you had.
And
So that was interpretation of the agreement.
And then the government now turn around and buy The shares.
Government recover back yeah.
Right.
And that is good. That is good.
You think it's good?
Yes, man, it better.
And what about the legal fees and all this thing?
Anytime you go to court, you have to pay legal fees. Let me say something to you. Sometimes people, every time they hear court, they're afraid. The same individual, I can't remember his name, that brought the government to court and with Gregory Boyd and them, and they won him. He brought Israel to court. These big companies take it like a joke to bring up little governments. These are multi-millionaires, billionaires. And one of the ways they silence government is to bring them to court because they believe...
Why do they bring them to court? Because of investment disputes.
Investment issues. Sometimes when you have an Israeli investor now, I think is in Ghana, that they claim the United States and all say the man tricked the country.
Right.
These people are powerful. Nothing wrong in bringing them to court.
But don't you think, when you look at the track record and the amount of court claims that was pressed on the NMP administration, don't you think it's a bad?
No. What you have is a government that dares to challenge the multinational corporation. Some government afraid.
But at the end of the day, Mr. Pierre, is our taxpayers' money that are paying back all this claims?
Go and ask any businessman in Grenada. Ask any businessman in Grenada about the court. Almost all the businessmen have issues with the court. Nothing wrong with that. That is just fear tactics that is used. Nothing is wrong with that.
My point here is the track record. You don't think there are too many court claims?
No. There are a lot of instances when government have to prepare to fight these issues in court. And the governments have been doing well.
What about you? Finally, what's your thoughts on Gemma Bain, Dr. Charles, William Thompson? All this money that could have been spent elsewhere.
Listen,
healthcare,
my brother, this morning we start with the Constitution. The Constitution of this country tie politician hands behind their back. The only reason that NNP could have challenged certain these things is because of the NNP maturity and the overwhelming confidence people put in them. There are some public officers that need to be fired. They're sabotaging government. Not this government alone, you know.
So you would victimize them?
That is not victimize. I fine them.
Huh?
If I fine them, there are some public officers that sabotage government. Some of them is not malicious, you know. Some of them is pure laziness. And if you have what the previous government did, normally they have a number of people acting. They put them permanent because I guess they feel they would have lose the election, and they put them on permanent. If you have a cabinet secretary and you don't trust the cabinet secretary, you want to keep her. But the law say you can't move her, and that cabinet secretary don't want to move. There are other cabinet secretaries before, one in particular that tell the prime minister, I think it was Tillman Thomas, move me if you don't trust me. We have pet these public officers. This is what causing this country to be in some of these problems. We have poor performance from senior public officers, and nobody can take them on.
But you remember 2008, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance, when NDC had won, they had kept the gentleman in it.
They kept him because they're afraid to fire him. Afraid.
So they could do
they kept him because they're afraid. They kept him and they bad talking him. They kept him and they bad talking him. Let us take another one. The Commissioner of Police then. When this government come in power, they remove the Commissioner of Police.
Which one? You're talking NNP?
When NNP come in power, they remove the previous Commissioner of Police.
Look how much it costs us today.
I moving him too.
You moving him?
As a public officers have to learn to walk the straight and narrow. If you openly flaunt a political party and you say, I don't meddle with this man, I ain't working with this man, when I come in power, I'm going to put you to be Commissioner of Police. Remember, we kill parliamentarians in Grenada, you know. We shoot Commissioner of Police and we fire government, you know. I don't joking with this thing. The Prime Minister of Grenada was correct. And they didn't fire him, they transfer him. And then he lost his case.
Who lost case?
The previous Commissioner of Police we're talking about.
Nah, he won his case.
He won the case?
Yeah.
All right.
They owe him money.
We'll find out back on that. But nothing is, you see, based upon the constitution, the politicians can give no public officer order, you know. No politician could give public officers instruction. The permanent secretary is considered an insulator between the politicians and the public officers.
Yeah, he's the second person after
And if you find a permanent secretary that done good, or the permanent secretary openly against the government, crap or smoke the politician pipe without tobacco, it's only because Kit understand the system. He in it long. That is why they have a little hole. They make Tillman Thomas go wrong the wheel. You remember the previous government lose a gift for Cuba? They forget passport. They forget the jacket when they go in Carriacou. They had him like a little rara because he didn't have the guts to move them. This thing is not a joke. This is Grenada we're speaking about, you know. People don't normally talk about that because if you open your mouth on a public officer, the union jump upon you. I was a public officer. There are some public officers, they need to throw them out.
Throw them out.
They're unproductive and they're sabotaging progress. Tell me if you agree how you could have a school and 70% of the children can't meet the minimum requirement. You agree with that? 70% of the children failing?
In terms of examination and...
They can't meet. Well, that is what they're teaching. They don't teach them carpentry or dance in the school. What they're teaching is maths and English and etc.
And that next discussion, eh?
No, well, you must give, and we're not running away from any discussion. You could give me a shout back anytime. Thank you, sir. And the number to call is 442-0175, and we speak on any subject matter. This is the power of this freedom of the press. You know. Some people use the press to malign Grenada, to tear and sear Grenada asunder. We have problem in Grenada. We don't need to tear down Grenada unnecessarily. If something is wrong, we say wrong. But we can't be talking about roads. Grenada have the best network of roads in the region. Well, if you say, you might say Carriacou and Grenada is one. Barbados might be a little bit after Grenada. And the quality of the roads is good when you compare it with the rest of the Caribbean. Electricity, telephone, and water in Grenada is second to none, better than most, and comparable with the best. The teacher-to-children ratio in Grenada is better than America and England. Grenada spend more money on the social safety net program than any other person in the region, and that is good. We don't have the destitute poor in Grenada. Yes, you have some people that mad. Yes, you have some people that psychologically affected. And you will see they're doing stupidness, eating from the garbage pan. But tell me which village or which community in Grenada you have poor people that don't have lunch to eat or can't get food to eat. The church is begging to give people assistance. And the government has said 7 years now, and I have been pounding it on radio. There is no child in Grenada that could claim that they cannot go to school because they don't have the basic requirements. This is not easy achievement. In addition to that, you don't see the vehicles and we have in Grenada. In the last 10 to 12 years, we doubled the amount of vehicles we have. That means people have discretionary income so they could buy transport. Prior to COVID-19, every month we have a big show, foreign shows, sell out. What we need to do is to encourage people to give priority to educational issues. We have a call on the line. Caller, you got a punch.
Yes, good morning to you, sir.
Yes, my brother.
And how are you today?
Great, man.
And how is Andre today?
Good, too.
When next
I guess.
tell him his friend say hello.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, sir.
Here is the problem I'm having. I heard everything you say, and I heard everything everybody else say, and I know so much. But here's my problem, sir. CARICOM sent an envoy to Ukraine, and we yet to hear the report of that envoy. America have placed sanction on many countries, including Russia and China, for the rest of the world to follow. CARICOM voted against Russia in the last General Assembly with respect to the Ukraine matter. Yet they are saying now they are not going to follow the sanction put against Russia. So I want to know where CARICOM heads stand. Where do they stand? Who they backing? I remember Africa, and you are a historian. The same Europeans, it's the same people who created a lot of problem for us today, black people and Africans in the world. It's the same people who call themselves the EU. So who do we back? The Soviet Union assists Cuba with respect to the South Africa matter, and we pitch into because we send soldiers down there.
Well, we want to thank you for that because we come on the end of the program.
Okay.
And it's a good note to start on or stop on or start on tomorrow. But so thank you.
We're going to continue tomorrow, please.
Yes, thank you very much.
Have a
But
great day, sir.
we have to remember CARICOM position. We are small countries. We're living in America and England back door. The majority of our people are in these countries. We have to be careful with politics. It is not a black cat or a white cat. It's a cat that holding rat. CARICOM have to determine what is the best position they take while also they support a sense of morality. Remember, we were colonies and Britain take charge of us and give us independence. Eric Williams said they suck us dry like an orange and they promise not to mash the skin. So CARICOM have to be careful. The same way Ukraine is an independent country, a sovereign country, and Russia also signed the Budapest Agreement memorandum that says they would not invade Ukraine. And sorry, that is all the time we have. And remember, we just provoked discussion, so we continue. Thank you.
To those gone before us, the